Okay guys, this is my first long form video that I'm doing for you. So I want to let you know if you like it. How was it? Was I rambling too much? Did I get off topic? Was it informative? Were there things that I should have said that I didn't? Let me know down in the comments, okay? But I hope you enjoy this video. Hey everybody, this is Christopher from Bep-pa. Have you ever wondered what goes on behind the scenes in a restaurant? There's actually a lot of stuff that's happening back in the kitchen, back after we close, before we open. There's a lot of stuff that's going on in a restaurant that you may not be aware of. So a lot of the things you may have heard me talk about already. Last week I posted a video talking about just a small shelf and a cooler that we installed. You know, so there are little improvements we do behind the scenes that you can't see because they're happening in the kitchen, or even sometimes improvements that you could see but maybe you just don't notice or you just don't pay that much attention to. So let me tell you about a couple of the things that happen in a restaurant that I think are just very interesting. So let's start off with the food. Every single item on the menu has to have a process, or it has to fit into an existing process. So there's no way that we could go and we could have an individual process for every single food item, because that simply would just be a nightmare as far as trying to prepare your meal when you come in and you order 10 different things and everything has its own way of doing it, its own place it needs to be. That would be a nightmare. Instead, what we have to do is we have to have one process or a few processes that everything can fit into. So let me tell you, for example, the sushi. Okay, so on the sushi, when you order a sushi roll, what we have is we have a cooler back there and we have all the individual ingredients for the sushi, kind of like pizza, how a pizza is made. So most of you are probably pretty familiar with that. You've maybe seen pictures and so on. So all the ingredients are sitting there ready to go. And then what we do is we take the rice, we put it on the seaweed, we put the ingredients on it, we roll it up, we cut it, put whatever goes on top and send it on down the line. So it's got a process. So that way we can do 10 rolls or 20 rolls or 30 rolls on the menu and it still fits into the same process. So we've got a couple different processes here at Bep-pa. We've got one for the sushi, we have one for the hot side, which includes things like pho, pad thai. We have one for what we call poke, which isn't really poke, that's just the word we use, which is actually more for some like the fresh things, the fresh rolls, or excuse me, the fresh bowls. So for example, like your bún thát nướng, the Vietnamese noodle bowl, that one goes on the poke side. And why do we call it poke? Okay, that just doesn't make sense, does it? So the reason we call it poke is because originally when we opened, we had poke bowls on the menu. They're not currently on the menu now, although we did have them for about a year. We're looking to put them back soon, just so you know. And actually, some of you already know that you can just tell us you want a poke bowl and we'll do it for you. But it's not on the menu right now. But anyway, when we first opened, we had poke bowls, and those were done over at the same section that the bún thát nướng and the other kind of fresh bowls were done. And we needed a name for that section, so when we called out an order, we had to say something so the person would be aware that they need to come to that station. And we just picked poke because that was the easiest word out of the group of things that was there. So that's why we call it poke. So if you're ever dining in and you hear us go back into the kitchen and scream out, order poke, sushi, something like that, you know what we're doing now. We're calling out who needs to come to what station. So that right there gives you an idea of about how many different processes we have in the kitchen. So that's 3, and I might say maybe like 3.5, because we've got appetizers that sort of happen with all of these things depending on what it is and what needs to be done. So if you come in and you order, say, a pho, and you order the bún thát nướng, and then you order a sushi roll, and you order a shumai, that's 4 different things that are happening in 4, or kind of like I said, 3.5 different places. So all these things have to be coordinated. Now this is actually very interesting, because when all of these things are happening, now when it's one order, it's just like, okay, do this, do this, do this, no problem. But when it's very busy, okay, when you come in and you see that all the tables are full and the phone keeps ringing and we're just running around like crazy, when you see that happening, back there, what is happening is these stations, these lines of food flow are all happening at the same time. And what we want to do is we want to make every single ticket converge. So we want to have the hot side coming here, and we want to have the sushi coming here, and we want to have the poke coming here, and the appetizers coming here, and we want that ticket to converge at the same time. We want to make them line up, and everything has to be coordinated. And this is one of the most interesting parts of working in a restaurant, is just bringing all these things together. As a matter of fact, restaurants are one of the only places you can come in, work for just a short amount of time, and then get put in a position similar to that where you're coordinating all these different parts all at the same time. It's a big responsibility. You might not have ever worked in a kitchen, or if you did, maybe you worked in a big corporate kitchen where everything was kind of preset for you. But for a small restaurant like Bep-pa or these other locally owned restaurants that you go to, they do have a process already. You know, we've got a process in the kitchen, but that process is not perfected yet. You know, we're only a year and a half old, which means that we are improving our process every day, every month, every week. You know, we are making changes. Some of them are very baby steps. The shelf that I did just a week or two ago, the cooler that I installed, these are just baby steps to help. You know, I did some reorganizing in the kitchen maybe 6 months ago. I moved some stuff around, and actually I did like 3 or 4 iterations of where to put things, and I'll tell you that it was a little bit chaotic there at first, because as we were doing this, as we were putting these things together, everything was new. So we'd come in and things were moved around, and it was a little bit of a headache. It was a challenge for us, and so it's an exciting part of a restaurant. Now, there are other things that go on back there in the kitchen though that are really interesting that I think you'd be interested in knowing as well.
So keep an eye out for our future videos with some really interesting behind the scenes content.